join me in the prayer and the pledge? Dear Heavenly Father, as we go into this time of Thanksgiving, we want to just, number one, thank you for our country and our freedom. Thank you for the men and women overseas and abroad and around the country that are fighting for our freedoms, that we can stand here this evening. Lord, we pray for the ones who are less fortunate, and we ask that all hearts be broken for those around us. Bless the hands and the hearts that are working this evening, trying to do better for their community. Bless the people that are here that have concerns, and that their voice be heard. We ask these favors in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Mayor, if I may, we understand from the Election Commission that the votes did not get certified today. The election did not get certified. So item number 2 and item number 3 need to be deferred to the December 6th meeting in order to be legal.
And with that, item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. What other additions or deletions?
Second.
We have a first and second. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5 is citizens' comments. We have Dr. Neil Rice. If you'll approach the podium, please, sir. You have 3 minutes to state your concerns or comments. Thank you.
That should be sufficient. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And as I begin, let me offer to the 3 of you who were re-elected to another term on the Fairview Board of Commissioners my most sincere congratulations. I know that you will continue to work for the betterment of the city of Fairview. My reason for speaking with you this evening is to make 2 requests, very, very specific requests, and neither one will cost a penny. All right. First of all, I would like very much, let me restate that. I noticed on the agenda that there is going to be a discussion concerning the architect and insulation and electrical work at Triangle School. I'm glad to see this project advancing to that stage. Request number 1 is that I be provided the opportunity to meet with the architect at Triangle School. The reason for wanting to do that is that we have antique hanging school light fixtures that have come out of old school buildings, including Haskell School here in Fairview, and would like to offer some suggestions, and of course they would only be that, concerning the placement of those light fixtures as well as the placement of certain light or electrical sockets. So would like for someone to designate, for you all to designate somebody to call me, if you would please, so that when it's convenient, that I can meet with the architect at the school. That's request number 1. Request number 2 is that our upcoming Tennessee or Fairview Historical Association Antiques Auction be placed on the website of the City of Fairview. If you will approve that this evening and let me know the person who would write that brief announcement. Actually, I already have it written. I would very much like to meet with you or that person after the meeting so that it can be done. Let me tell you just a little bit about where we are with regard to the auction. It is absolutely remarkable and almost unbelievable, the donations that we have received from the City of Fairview. Those donations indicate a remarkable and strong interest in the development of the Fairview Historic Village. To date, 5 individuals have hauled 11 truckloads fully loaded to the auction gallery at Fairview, at Centerville, and there are more loads to go. The auction will be although the advertisement indicates that the auction begins at 9 o'clock on Saturday, December the 1st, and that is correct. But there is no conflict between the auction and the Christmas parade, because between 9 o'clock and 11:30, a local Centerville estate will be sold. The selling of our items will begin at 11:30 and last until approximately 5 o'clock. So as you can say, it's going to be a long auction, and there are literally hundreds of auctions, including several pieces of furniture that's 200 and 300 years old. Today I met with Nancy Stevens, and she and I wrote an article that is going to be published in both the Fairview Observer and the Williamson AM that will describe the auction. In addition to that, I am holding a sheet that indicates a donation that she and her organization that publishes the Observer are making to the Fairview community. A donation of value of $2,478 for advertising on November the 20th and November the 27th in the Fairview Observer, Fairview Shopper, Dixon Shopper, and Hickman Shopper. $2,478. So be watching both for the article as well as the ads. In addition, the auction will be advertised in the Antique Trader, the Tennessean, and many trades publications, and it's already online. So we are having an online auction that's going on right now, as well as a live auction beginning, what did I say, December the 1st. So once again, to summarize, and I'll leave you alone, I request that that I meet with be allowed to meet with the architect, that you designate a person to do so, and that whoever that is notify me. And secondly, that an announcement be made for placement on the city website about the announcement. This would just be one of many, many sources to get the job done. Thank you, folks, unless you have a question.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Item number 6 is awards and recognition.
Mayor, there are no awards or recognitions from city staff.
Any from the board? Item number 7, public announcements.
Mayor, just one, City Hall will be closed next Thursday and Friday, November 22nd and 23rd, in observation of Thanksgiving.
I'd like to also, for public announcements, mention that November 29th, that's Thursday, that is a fifth Thursday, we will be having a town hall meeting. Also on December 1st, we will have our annual Christmas parade down Fairview Boulevard. The theme this year is Miracle Down the Boulevard. And as you know, all of our expansions and sidewalks and such are small miracles, and we just want to highlight that. That's December 1st, and it kicks off at 10 a.m. coming from France to the City Park on 96. You can pick up applications at the Chamber of Commerce. And then also on December 1st at 4:30, we will have our annual tree lighting, and that will take place here at City Hall on the City Hall lawn as we flip the switch to set off our Christmas holidays. So we hope that everybody can be involved and get started in wonderful and safe Christmas holidays with the city. Any other public announcements from the board?
Just ask a question. I believe there's some young people here from the Junior ROTC. Is that correct? Do we have anything for them tonight? Or they just want to dress up and show up?
No, they just showed up, sir.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We appreciate y'all commitment. Any other public announcements? Item number 8 is the approval of the minutes for the October 18th, 2012 Board of Commissioners meeting. Second. We have a first and a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item number 9, old business, update on City of Fairview projects.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of them will be updated on item 9C and 9D, but I have two to update. The street lights along Fairview Boulevard are being installed as we speak. No, well, probably not right now, but they started today. I'm sure they'll continue tomorrow. And also, we will start our Evergreen cleanup project, Evergreen Lake cleanup project, probably sometime in the middle of January. So we're looking toward that direction right now to get that taken care of. Also, we'll be bidding out the widening of the Bowie Lake Road. I believe it's the 15th of January is what y'all voted to do, and we'll have that bid package prepared and ready to go for bid date of January 15th, 2013.
Any questions from the board on the projects?
When do they anticipate being through with streetlights?
I don't know, I would imagine 3 or 4 days, because they put, I think, 2 or 3 up today, and at that rate, it'd take probably 4 or 5 days to get 30 poles.
Are they going to be coming on in concession with the way they're installed, or are there going to be a time that they're going to come on?
They should come on as it gets dark.
Well, I'm talking about
They should be on, the ones up should be on now.
now.
They were on when we turned in.
I would, okay, I was here before dark.
Incorporated in our tree lighting
That's
ceremony.
what I was thinking. No, seriously, that's what I was thinking about it, but that's a couple of weeks ago.
I think
Red Bull.
they really don't have a power, on-off switch, they're just electric eyes that come off photo cell, so it'd be hard to control, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Any other comments? Moving on, 9B, presentation of Windstream on upgrading communications. Director LaVoy.
We have Ms. Shannon McGee with us from Windstream and Jonathan from Windstream with us to present the solution to our communications.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for your time and allowing us to come and to present to you today. I understand that you've been presented with a packet similar to what I have in my hand, so you've been briefed a little bit about it. I can go into as much detail as you want me to, or I can stay at a high level. Basically, what we are proposing is we currently provide voice services for the city of Fairview, as well as many other local municipalities across the state of Tennessee. And we're here tonight to talk to you about some specific goals that you guys were having, some issues that we were having with customer service, and so we're trying to improve on those things for the city of Fairview. One of the topics that we are discussing is to build what's called a wide area network, where we would take your locations throughout the city and put them all on a privatized network where you could share data, information, as well as phone calls. And we are also proposing that we would install new phone sets at all of these locations to give you the ability to call between locations. Currently, when a call comes into one location, if they were looking for someone else, they would have to say, you'll have to hang up and you'll have to call. So we are using voice over IP technology to make it to where you are able to transfer calls throughout the city. The other thing that we're doing is we were proposing to provide a network firewall, which will give you a better security level for the city. We also can give you remote access for your codes departments and your police officers that are trying to put their reports into the systems and things like that. They would have secure remote access into the city's applications, servers, anything that you had running. So what we are trying to do for the city is to make it very easy to manage a wide area network where all of the locations are connected and you're easily able to handle the citizens when they call in or need something. You can transfer them from department to department. The other thing that we have included in this is we're going to give you some disaster recovery. I know that the city was affected by the flood, and at the current time, the technology didn't exist to easily do disaster recovery type applications. It now does, and so we are including in this proposal the ability for you to take any telephone number that the city has and redirect it to any other number that you would like to do that with. So it could be a cellular phone, it could be a landline-based phone. This is all done within the Windstream network. So if, for heaven forbid, a tornado came through and wiped out City Hall, you would still be able to disaster recovery all of your telephones to different locations. It would be done within the cloud. So really, essentially, what we're talking about is making everything look like it's one location to the outside user. If they call in and they need to get to a different department, you can easily 4-digit dial transfer them over to that department. We're increasing the security, as I mentioned. We're also giving you a more robust and more technology that you could use from the city's standpoint. We're also going to give you the phones, so the actual handsets that go on people's desks. We would supply all of the phones for the city, for all the people that needed the phones. We would manage that phone system for you. We would also give Don or whoever else needed it what they call a GUI interface, or an internet interface. So you could go in from any internet connection if you were a user, and you could manipulate your phone to forward to your cell phone, to do voicemail to email. That is a new technology that we've included as well. So it would give you a more unified communications. And it would also put your customer service from a standpoint of, if something were to break, who do you call? So currently you have a myriad of vendors and a myriad of phone systems and type of applications like that require different vendors to work on them. So we would become the one-stop shop. There would be no finger pointing in anything. If there was something to happen, there would be no finger pointing, because there's only one person to point the finger at. And Windstream would install everything at no cost to the city, so there's no capital expense for the city to come up with. The only thing that we would do is just give you the equipment for the life of the term. You don't own the equipment. You don't have to come out of pocket to buy the equipment. We guarantee the equipment, so if it breaks, a phone breaks or whatever, we'll come back out and replace it. At the end of the term, if the city said, you know, we've got new technology now, we're looking at doing something different, that's fine. We just simply come and get the equipment, and the city doesn't owe anything to anybody for that. So in a nutshell, at a high level, we are presenting to you to basically manage a fully meshed wide area network for the city. We're offering to give you a scalable growth pattern in the future. So if you ever want to increase bandwidth or go to a fiber optic scenario, we have the ability to do that.
I believe there was a possibility of adding a location out on 840. That would just become another node onto this network. So it's very easy to assimilate it into the network we've already created for you.
So it's got a lot of future growth. If you needed to do anything like that, we can definitely accommodate that.
Could you talk a little bit about the T1 line, how that would improve our streaming process?
Yes, sir. Currently, I believe you have DSLs for your internet connection. And so DSL is a technology that basically you can download at a great speed, say 6 meg, for example. But the upload speed is not the same. So anything that's being transferred up is typically at a 512 kilobit per second rate. A T1 is 1.5 megs of internet, and it's down and up. It is dedicated only to you, where a DSL is a shared service. So typically DSLs do not get the performance that T1s do. The good thing about that is if you're uploading a file, it's going to go at 1.5 meg up, and if you're downloading something from the internet, it's going to come at 1.5 meg down. And it will do that all day long at that speed. So that's the benefits of it. Did I answer your question? Or okay.
Any additional questions?
I do. I have, when you talk about increased bandwidth, we've been working with upgrading all of our systems are on Comcast, and this City Hall is not. Does that negate what we're working on right now?
This will improve what we've got because we don't have Comcast internet service, we've got DSL. So
Has Comcast spoke with either of you in the last 2 days?
I've got a,
The salesman is just, the salesman's trying to reach to discuss what your needs are. And I
I've
gave
got-
him both of your numbers yesterday.
I got a voicemail from him yesterday, hadn't returned the call yet. We had been trying to get in touch with Comcast, but they never returned any of our calls.
When you're talking about a new service, sometimes engineering is where you go, not sales and secretaries. So that's why the engineering doing with new construction was referred to you yesterday.
Well, I
So you
talked-
could talk directly to him.
Well, I had talked to an engineer, or had left messages through the engineering department. That's who the people that I had talked to referred me to. And I had left voicemails there, which never did get returned. And from what I understand, Comcast cannot give us the security that Windstream can. The phone services, from what I understand, is not, you can't do the voicemail to emails as you can with this system, which is really beneficial for directors that, are in and out of the office all the time. We get voicemails that will come directly to our smartphones through this system. And what we're doing right now, we're paying 4 different vendors. We're paying Black Box. We do have Windstream already. We have AT&T, and we have Comcast for the television. We would continue to have Comcast for the television, but the other 3 would, if we went with Windstream, would be the one service. And when we have phone troubles, we'll call one, and they'll say, well, it's not our problem. You need to call so-and-so, we'll call them. It's not our problem either, until we finally get to the solution of where we need to be. If we have one provider, then we're only going to call that one person to make sure that we've got our services taken care of, so.
So will you be canceling the Comcast services to
Well, we
the
got-
other buildings if Windstream takes over all municipality buildings?
The only thing that the buildings will have at that time would be TV service, because Windstream does not provide television service.
So Comcast Internet would be canceled because Windstream would be the primary internet for all municipality buildings?
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about you would manage. Is there an additional cost for hosting or managing?
No, ma'am, there is not. We would install the network and we would set it up as a wide area network. And that would be the management piece of it that we would perform for you. We would also put the phones in each individual's desk and we would manage that to the desktop, to the phone itself. So we would provide you with the routers and also the switches, the power over Ethernet switches for the city at no cost to you, and that's all managed from the upfront, yes.
Ms. Crystal, I'm going to ask you a question because we've had many conversations about Comcast and Comcast contracts. Are we able to no longer use Comcast, or do we have a current contract that we need to consider?
I'm not sure about our contract. You've asked me about the Comcast contract?
We've talked about the refund on Comcast, the
Oh, yeah,
monies
we
that
get-
come to,
That has nothing to do with our service with Comcast. That's their franchise.
it has to do with the municipality. Okay, that was my
Yes.
first question, and that's where the contract is.
Correct.
And do we currently have a contract with Comcast to keep or not keep? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Other questions?
There was something in there that I was reading about changes to be made after the system was brought up of 7 days.
Yes, sir. There is.
There would be a cost factor after 7 days if there was any changes desired. Is that correct?
Well, actually, the way that we do it is we have the initial planning sessions with the IT folks that you have, and our engineers will get together and we'll go over them, and we lay out how it's going to be. We put a freeze date on there of 7 days, and the reason that we do that is because if we go out to somebody and we install the phone system and they say, I'd really like to have a button here, here, and here. What we have found is that the technicians who are doing the installation tend to eat up more and more time on doing those types of small things. So what we do is install it like it is originally designed at first, And then after the 7-day period, we will send the technicians back out to clean up anything that they need to clean up. But the way that we install services, you know, we have technicians installing on a schedule of different places all day long. So we allot them a certain time to do the installation, basically. And then they've got to go to the next project.
I just thought I'd read in there where there would be additional charge after 7 days for any
There-
altercation.
No, so the answer to your question is we would not charge you to come back out. We are a telecom company just like AT&T. So if you call us out for a trouble ticket, especially in the scenario where we would be managing everything, there's no cost to you.
No, I was talking about changes.
Yes, sir, there's no cost to the city.
So if they needed a button here or there or whatever, after 7 days, it would be covered.
Yes, sir.
What's the downtime for you to install all of that? How, would they be without phone services for a certain period of time?
No, ma'am. Typically, we install the new services beside the existing services, so there's no loss of telephone service. Now, once we port the telephone numbers, actually go through the port, you're probably looking at 10 to 15 minutes of downtime where the phones would not ring at all. Other than that, no, ma'am, there would be no downtime.
What is your affiliation with the Williamson, one chamber?
Windstream's affiliation with it? We are members of the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce, yes, ma'am.
And do you also participate in their communications or their new systems or something?
Yes, ma'am, we do. I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
I know the rep in our office, Zach Kuiper, is actually involved in the Williamson County Chamber more than I am. I'm from Rutherford County, so I deal with Rutherford County. But yes, ma'am, we do provide services for them, the same solution that we're talking to you about. We provide them with the telephone, internet connections, and the hosted phone system sets themselves. Yes.
Don, how does our TV system, does it go out? Does it go out with the DSL right now, or does it go out, has Comcast got it going out some different way?
It goes out through Comcast, and it goes out over a analog line, not a high-def line.
Will it be able to go out over your T1 line?
Yes, it would be able to go out across it. However, I don't know how much bandwidth it uses to do that. So I would have to defer of not knowing the system and how much bandwidth it would require to transmit the signal.
Do you have an upgrade to the T1 line that's only 1.5 meg? Do you have higher?
Yes.
What?
We've also included an option in here for 3 meg, which would be 2 bonded T1s together for the city. We also can go up even greater than that using fiber technology. We could bond up to 7 T1s if we wanted to, but at 3, you might as well look at fiber. The cost of 3 bonded T1s and fiber are running about the same. So if you wanted to increase bandwidth, then I would suggest looking at a fiber option at that point.
If I may jump in here, we have, we're putting in some gig circuits for the National Predators. We do quite a bit. The goal here was to try and take all these piecemeal of different vendors, different services, and disconnect and provide a total solution for about the same budget so that it could help improve your network without being a budgetary discussion. If we want to increase the bandwidth greater, we can do as much as you want and as you have budgeted. We were trying to put the initial solution to be as close to what you're currently spending, and then upgrades can be additional on top of that.
So 50 meg would be attainable?
Yes, sir. I can deliver 20, 40, 50, 100 meg, even gigabit circuits if you need it. Yes, sir.
What does that do to our Comcast station that we broadcast on?
They could send it out in HD, but the 1.5 won't carry it.
But Do we have that Comcast station as Channel 19 because we have a relationship with them? If we sever that relationship, we won't have that channel?
That's correct.
I don't know if we would
That's
lose the
pretty
channel. We
big.
haven't spoken to them every time we call them.
That
Every
is
time
their
we call,
channel.
there's never been an answer. Typically, they provide that channel as part of the franchise agreement.
Local
governments.
community access
Right.
channel.
So that would not be,
I can't answer that
Disturbed.
question because we have not spoken to Comcast. We've tried. I've called Philadelphia and locals and even tried to ask service technicians out here, and nobody responds to you. So I'd be happy to
That's what I
speak
was
to this
telling you the
engineer.
other night in there, but they
Could you
wouldn't
answer the
get back.
question, would it be, if we were to change,
they called in yesterday.
would that affect the residual we get from Comcast at this time?
Because I know.
No. They've got a
None
franchise
whatsoever.
agreement. That comes from each household.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with
That's
us.
just
We
make
granted
sure.
them a franchise.
I need to make sure Comcast.
Just to make sure.
Might add one other thing. We've noticed, we kind of put this together, Don and I, counting the number of phones in our fire station, we built it as a wireless fire station, so we would only need one line or one handset down there, so that would affect.
We can adjust
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
accordingly. We can also add, he just mentioned this week, that you have wireless internet. If you have your own wireless router in there, that will work as is. As soon as we bring it in, there's no changes to be done. If you do not have your own in there, we can actually provide that. There's a nominal cost for the wireless router, but we pull some of those phones off, add the router. So we can certainly fine tune. The goal again was just to be able to have the opportunity to talk a total solution with you.
One more question.
Okay.
We just spent close to $100,000 on the upgrade of this room for all the sound and television and cameras and lighting and everything. Before we voted on this, would you be willing to meet with Comcast to make sure that this will be compatible?
Yes, sir. I can definitely do that. I can bring an engineer down as well.
How
So-
soon could you have that happen on your end?
Well, you got the holiday next week, but I mean, Monday or Tuesday of next week would be
Even
good for me.
Even as early as next week?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Don, you
Our
could,
our engineers are local and our technicians are local. We don't use third-party technicians. We
And-
have a local staff here. Besides
Yeah.
ourselves, we even have the largest staff of all carriers of account managers, local account managers. So we have local personnel ready to come out and meet with you.
Not
And-
only Comcast, but I would also like to see that our install company, tech support, is involved in this conversation, because if Comcast, Windstream, Interactive, and I don't know if Tim Slade even fits anymore if they do streaming, but we have had a series of people working on the projects, and it would be amiss if we made a decision and they didn't cooperate and collaborate with each other. So I'm going to make a deferment that we discuss this at the next Board of Commissioner meeting, once those things have been discussed.
Do you have any more questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present to the
You have a
council.
motion? A second.
First and second, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation and appreciate you concerning yourself with us being well-connected. Item 9C is discuss and/or take action on welcome sign bids. City Manager Hyatt?
Thank you, Mayor. On last Thursday, we had one sealed bid turned in. After the closeout of 2 o'clock, we had someone else come in, but according to state law, we cannot accept anything that comes in after the appointed time, the advertised time. So we ended up with one bid, and that bid was opened, and it was from Carrie G. Campbell Incorporated, and it was in the amount of $118,000 for our signs. Even, we spoke with Mr. Griggs, we all felt like that was rather high, more than we had anticipated, and staff's going to recommend that you reject the bid and let us, staff, look at what we had originally begun with possibly staff getting together and building the signs piecemeal instead of going out or trying to include them with the next item, which is the roadscape project. So we've kind of got two things here that we almost have to consider simultaneously.
What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to reject the bid.
First and second, any discussion?
If I could just, since this is open, Commissioner Johnson's got a sign down there that's roughly half the size of what we're looking at. And I'm not saying we do that exactly, but that was, from my point, it was $1,200, double it to $2,400, triple it was $7,500. We're still $100,000 less than what we're looking at, and it's a nice sign and can be enhanced with lights or whatever we want to do. So, yeah, I think you're exactly right. That's way out of what we're looking at.
One of the things that we've also looked at, obviously, come into play was the TDOT requirement that in their right-of-way, it has to be a breakaway type sign. I believe Commissioner Stewart's, the sign at the business is similar to that. They require some type of metal pole connection, like on the interstate, or wood pole, which we would have to look at. Also, staff, if you look at the columns that go into the nature center, we put the I don't know what the arch over the road going into the park, and staff did that. We did the columns and did the brick, and I believe it's stone actually. So we did that for a minimal cost, and I believe our biggest cost would be actually purchasing or coming up with the signs. And we also, Don and I at one time had, if you look at the signs in front of the fire department, the police department, we had purchased those, and I believe, Don, those were roughly $400 or $500 a piece. Maybe a little more, something in that area.
I think that was $525.
Yeah, and they're like 4 feet wide, so you can go a little wider, maybe, and come up with something. So you can look at that and see what we have, but we would like, maybe to come back with you with an option there as well.
Would we have had to do a bid package if the city would have done this as we originally discussed?
No, ma'am.
How much did the bid package or the process or the hours of the engineer cost us go in this direction for us to be shutting down and backing up?
I don't have that in front of us at this moment. That sounds close to being right, yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Did you open the second bid?
No, ma'am, by law, we can't do
You're not
that.
able to open it? My question was, did it have the breakaway? But if you didn't open it, that's not known. Okay. Other discussion? All those in favor?
I just had something.
I'm sorry, discussion?
Well, this has gotten way too carried away if we're talking those kinds of bids. And I think we have discussed several times that Commissioner Johnson's sign was a nice sign out in front of his wife's. That, maybe we need to look at what is making it cost the amount it is, and when y'all come back, give us some options, because it's been 2 years. It's time to get a sign done. And so whatever we need to do to move it forward and get it done, I say it's time. I know we've been talking about it 2 years, so it's a shame. I know the sign had originally, the sign we chose had a lot of architectural design to it that we needed to involve, but now we've wasted a lot of money, and needless to say, not that we shouldn't have if there was those issues, but now we have the grant that we're considering again, so it might be more feasible. So there's my input.
Along with that, I'll also make a statement that the concern of the quality, the concern of the request in the bids were things that maybe we wouldn't have required, nor were we required by the state or by the grant people. So I'm concerned with the materials and the items that the engineers are putting in the bids that are either, and I did bring this up when we discussed the bid for the Greenway, and I'll bring it up again, I believe that they're not using, and when I say layman material, that may not be the right sentence or phrase, but I do know that they called for some type of LED light that we never discussed, nor do we really care, and it escalated, I don't know the exact amount. One of the, which I shouldn't have probably got the phone call, but one of the persons bidding asked questions. I referred him back to staff, but I heard his question, and it was about certain things that was difficult to get or not used in our region. And I am very concerned that our engineers, and I wish they were here, I voiced this before in front of them, that they would use stuff that's normal for our area that may not increase our cost so exponentially where it's a ridiculous bid. Another statement is, I believe that the solar bid was about $3,000. We were told that multiple times, but the bid package was $10,350. That's a $3,000 solar addition. So at this point, I believe our bid process needs to be reviewed. It's not going the right way. We're wasting money going this way, and I feel like it's wasting time, and it's not effective for what I see as getting things done at the most conservative way and the most efficient way from our leaders and our staff. Any other discussion?
Yes, ma'am, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you and Commissioner Carroll. We've waited far too long for this, and I'm sure we're all aware of the old wives' tale, too many cooks in the kitchen. I think that's been a case study of what we've seen with the signs for being too many cooks in the kitchen. I would suggest that if we approve the bid rejection, that we had always talked about $20,000 being our project amount, that we find out how much we spent on the engineer, we subtract that from $20,000, the remaining funds we give as the goal for the city manager and his staff, and have them come back with what they will build or can build for that amount of money, and that we either yay or nay, and we let staff design and place the signs, and we just kind of get out of it. Because I think, well-meaning as we may all be, I think that what you just stated is absolutely true, that the engineers just turned it into the Taj Mahal when we weren't really trying to get the Taj Mahal. But it's one of those things that, given the amount of money that we're trying to spend, the more people trying to create just causes prices to go up and up and up and up and up. And when is, if we just allowed them to, they've built us some nice signs in a couple of places. If we allowed them to come back to us with, this is what we'll build with your money, it might make our process a lot easier.
I don't disagree with your thought process, but we did start with the city was going to take care of the sign, the city was going to build the sign, we were going to save money, and the city can do the sign. It did not come out that way, and out of staff's comments, we're not equipped, we're not educated, we're not able to do that. So we've already been down this road, and it got turned left. I thought they were highly capable of accomplishing it, but they said they were not, thus then we went into the bid package. The other thing that I do not agree with, Vice Mayor, with respect to you, is I don't think that the city deserves whatever we can afford. I believe that we need to look at what is best for the city. I know in discussion of design, it's always been that we were kind of shooting a little higher than maybe definitely what we have now, but we were looking to give a good sign at a decent price for us to upgrade what we have now, which to me is below standard for what we're trying to project.
Well, I don't remember exactly, but I don't recall that that's what our staff told us.
Excuse me, do you remember saying that the staff wasn't?
I have the floor, thank you. When that was first discussed, as I recall, we started adding all of these things on it, and that's when staff told us that they were incapable or didn't have the staff for doing it.
It is your recollection.
So, yes, ma'am. And when I relinquish the floor, then you can comment again. But as to the city being able to have what we can afford, that's kind of been our motto the last 2 years, is that we weren't about raising taxes, we weren't about borrowing money that wasn't absolutely necessary. We were about getting the best of what we could afford. So I don't follow your logic there.
Any other discussion?
Well, I did want to make a comment. I do recall some of these meetings. There has been, I don't know if it was the city manager that said it versus, or who said it, but there was some discussion of, it came from somebody either up here or down there that, would that be adequate having the city? Of course, I think we talked at the time, and I did agree that the signs were nice that the city had done. But the intent was to design something that, made a statement and it was an investment. So I think that was our goal. Now, it did. It's gotten way out of control, and it's something that we need to rein back in. And, I'll be happy for the city staff to come with some suggestions on how we can do it and different options. It needs to move forward. So I'm not saying elaborate options of, here's two. We could go back to one of the 3 designs that was brought before us. There was more than one that we agreed on, and there was one that was a lot simpler to do. So, there's just some options, and I've said all along about Commissioner Johnson's wife's shop sign was, it looks nice. That was a nice addition. So, I would like some input on what it looks like. Maybe that's the female in me, but I want it to be something that when we can be proud of for years to come. But I want it to fit in our pocketbook also. And so there's kind of my thought is I would like to see, before we just blindly say pick whatever, I would like to see what the whatever is and what the material that's going to be used.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 9D, discuss and or take action on TDOT roadscape project. City Manager Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. In light of the sign project, I'm kind of hearing that we want to move into staff bringing back proposals. Do we want to table this until we bring those proposals back?
So moved.
Second to defer.
First and second, any discussion?
And the reason why is because maybe see if TDOT would accept and approve that type of sign with what they do. We want to try to do something without having too many plans, obviously, because we already spent that kind of money. We don't want to get into that. So we'd have to discuss with them about taking that out and seeing what kind of money we're talking about so we can actually focus on this. Because the money that we targeted for our match for this would be the money that we'd be using for that. So we'd have to discuss that.
Well, and can I,
Go ahead.
are we open? That's exactly, if there's still the opportunity where we could do something that would work in and get the grant and not pay the money, and then we can still use the grant, that would be the way that I would want to go. I don't know how everybody else would feel, but that would be, what do we need to do? That's what I'd like to know, so.
Well, we have the option with the roadscape project to keep the signs in, work on a design, and to see if the TDOT would approve it in their right-of-ways. If they approve the signs, let me back up, they've already approved something because they sent us a contract. So what is approved at this time under this contract for a sign, because that was part of the grant. This was before my time, so I asked the question.
There was no signs approved. The last email I got from Monique Hazelwood, when I asked her about our sign design, and she said they have no sign design on file for the city of Fairview.
So that would be part of what they offer as free services and free design.
From what understanding, the email I got from Monique stated that Lowe's and Associates would provide technical assistance, which would include up to plans and design at no cost to the city. Our only cost to the city would be if we pursued the grant and they'd done the design work for us, and then we backed out of the grant, then they would expect us to reimburse TDOT for any costs that they were incurred doing these plans for us.
That just opened up a question for me. The last time we had this discussion, we talked about they would not approve the design that we had without breakaway structures on it because it was inside the easement. Now, do we discuss with them moving that sign those 4 feet? And would we still have to comply with that as part of the design?
We cannot use the grant for the signs if they are not in TDOT's right-of-way.
Okay.
I did confirm that with Monique after our last meeting.
Well, and then that brings a question, is what's to prevent us from going through these steps again with the engineering company or the architects that design the sign, and then the product be more than we want to spend?
Well, if you're going to be doing it in TDOT's right-of-way, it has to be a breakaway type sign, either a metal post or a wooden post, so you're not going to be able to do rock columns. That's one of the great costs with the design that we've got now was with the rock and everything that was being formed. So the cost shouldn't be near as much with doing metal or wood breakaway signposts. But that may not be the design that y'all want. So, I mean, we can go through the process and have Lowe's help us with the design for the signs and the landscaping of the 4-lane and bring it back to you all, and then y'all don't like the design, so.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, once we've talked about having a stone sign for so long, then we would totally have to, or you would just have to have the breakaway. If we put it exactly where,
If it's in TDOT's right-of-way, they got policy that it has to be a breakaway design. And so typically, you're not going to get a rock column built as a breakaway sign.
But you do not know for sure that the breakaway and the columns cannot be the same sign. I'm being told it can be. That the columns can be made in a breakaway form.
Well, from my conversations or my emails back and forth with Monique, that they have to be either a metal post or a wooden post that is designed to break away. It's hard to get a rock column designed to break away. If you did, that would probably just increase the cost that much more to design them that way.
But we're almost to the point now, and I understand completely this reason we've dropped some of the grants before from the state and federal government because of the requirements they put on top of these. It gets so expensive, even to the point of who you can hire and who you can't hire and how much you can pay them and everything else. We were going through that with the Greenway project back, if I'm not mistaken, for us to see what it will cost us just to do it. Because, we had allotted up to an extra $10,000, it's just a rough figure, to get what we wanted done. And we're talking about 3 times what he's got for almost 3 of them for the same money. And we just need to look at it. If we don't need it, if we don't get it, we don't need it. As long as it's not in the right of way, am I correct? That's a mandatory requirement if it's in the right of way.
Yeah.
If it's not in the right of way, then we don't
Then
have
you
to
do what you
defer
wanna
to
do.
them. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. As long as we defer from that right of way, we don't have to worry about it.
And if you want to proceed with the grant without the signs, then she's said that we could ask for a rescope of the design to only include the landscaping. So if you want to break the signs out of that, build the signs on private property, and then still use the grant for the landscaping, we can do that as well.
Well, in the same sense, could we not include not all of them are in the right of way, right?
Well, the one at Triangle School and the one at the fire station wouldn't necessarily have to be in the right of way because we own the property, so we could move them outside the right of way. The one that's on the east side of town, it's in the right of way. If we move it out of the right of way, we would have to get an easement from a property owner to place the sign out of the right of way.
Well, and even, not even to go back there, but, there's still the option of, like the vice mayor had mentioned way back when, is we could move the sign on Highway 100 to property that was ours, so.
We don't own that property, do we? We don't own the property where the Welcome to Fairview sign is, so we'd still have to get an easement because it's,
Like, if we refer that to the city attorney by proxy from the location and how long it's been there,
It's still right away.
we do have that property, right? We own, no, I'm talking about where that sign is at now, and it's been there how long? I thought we had some discussion before about, because of how long it's been there.
You're talking about open and adverse possession, and we haven't paid any taxes on it, so you're looking at a considerable amount of time, like 21 years.
I know it's been forever, yeah.
It may be. I mean, I'd have to look and see if the property.
Since I could drive.
But it's in the right of way.
Exactly.
Well, if it's in the right of way, you can't own it in the right of way. If it's state right of way, you don't get adverse possession against the state being in the state right of way. No.
The property owner would let us move the sign.
I believe that also.
If it was on private property, you might have an argument, but if it's on state right of way, there is no such thing as obtaining adverse possession on state right of
We
way.
can get an answer tomorrow probably on that right there. Maybe not.
what was staff recommendation?
That we defer this until we can get some information back on the cost of staff doing the sign and give you some options to look at there.
What are the wishes of the board? First, second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9E, discuss and or take action on city manager contract. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, ma'am. I have for your consideration a 2-year contract for the city manager. I am resubmitting it to the board for consideration. It's exactly the same as in your packet, except it is 2 years instead of 4. I am submitting it because of the concurrence of the start of the contract here with the fact that the majority of the board has just been reelected for 4-year terms. Teresa, Don, here's copies for that table. The contract contains 2, I guess, new items, changes, however you would want to verse that. The first, and I think is the most important, that it's not only that we are wanting to retain his employment, it's that he is required to receive our permission to look for another position. So it pretty much comes full circle that we're investing our time and effort and money into him, and he in turn is agreeing not to be out looking for jobs someplace else, which would put us in a bind. And the other provisions such as pay, severance package, all of that remains as to what we've already approved for him under separate action. The only change to that would be that if we voted that he had done a better than average job, we could give him a higher percentage raise. So I move to approve.
I'll second the move for discussion.
Discussion?
just for my clarification on this does not nolly any of the agreement that we had prior to that as far as a compensation if we do not terminate for just cause, as far as the 90 days or until he finds further employment.
No, the prior severance packages we approved, the contract refers to it, and unless that was changed by the board, the severance package, then that's what he
So
would
that
do.
would have no effect whatsoever on this right here, so there wouldn't be, if it was a 2 years, we wouldn't have to be concerned about paying him for the 2 years. It
No,
would still be the 90 days.
if, we would have to pay him the 90 days that we agreed to. But we would pay him, say, for 21 months or some amount like that.
So this would also include, just part of that question, I think you answered it already, as far as up to those period of time, depending on if you found other employment in the meantime or shorter period of time, it would terminate at that time?
It would be exactly as we've already approved. We just didn't go through the trouble of restating it. We simply referred to the resolution we had already passed.
Larry, to defer to you for just a second, what effect would this have on the right to work status that we have here now?
Would have no effect on the right to work because both the charter and the state law says that you can't have a contract that the board can't nullify for a city manager or can't terminate for a city manager except in the first year of his employment, and then only for cause in that first year. Of course, the first year is already passed, so you're not going to have any problem with
So
that.
that, we're not cutting out of that, so it would still be depending on a majority vote from the commission?
Right, well, let's see, it specifically refers to that in the contract.
I'm just double checking.
That it doesn't in any way attempt to change, and couldn't change state law, or which also is that same provision is in the charter, so you couldn't change that. The only thing you'd have to do in this is somebody have to research the minutes to insert the date that the severance package was passed, because it's blank here and it would have to be filled in before the contract was executed. But from a standpoint of legality, there's no problem with the contract. Now, whether it has all the provisions, excuse me, that Mr. Hyatt may want, or any provisions that the board may want to add, I have no, that's your call. But there's nothing in the contract that's in any way illegal.
That's all the questions I've got, thank you. Sir? That's all I've got, thank you.
So these were, you wrote this, or are we back to, did you write this contract?
No, ma'am, I did not write it. I reviewed it.
And as you said, there's nothing you see that would be abnormal or you would recommend against?
No, ma'am, it's similar to contracts that city managers have all over the state. There's some things in there that are specific to Fairview, mentioning the city by name and your board resolution and this type of thing, but there's nothing in there that is out of line or violates any state law.
And it protects the city?
It protects the city and it protects the city manager. I mean, it provides a term for the contract unless something happened in, for example, and I'm not saying you would do it, but malfeasance, or if the board just decided that they wanted to leave. There's also a provision in there in which he can resign, but he has to give you notice. So it protects both parties. That's pretty well standard in most contracts. If you've got a contract that only protects one side, you got a bad contract.
Yeah, but it's my job to, worry about if it's protecting us.
Right.
I mean, I would hope.
It doesn't take away or give anything that they don't already have. I mean, you can terminate under this contract, or you can terminate without a contract. He can quit with a contract or without a contract. You just have to follow the provisions. I'm not trying to be cute or anything, but you can't bind me to a contract that I can't leave. That's involuntary servitude.
I had a question for the vice mayor. Can you explain to me, like the last we left this 6 months ago in June or July, we were going to send back, there was some requests of revisions, y'all had done that. The city attorney, we found through discussion, had not looked over those. But at the time, that contract was a year contract. And so why all of a sudden are we bringing a 4 and a 2-year contract when it was left as the city attorney would review it and bring it back to us?
Well, I felt in looking at the various contracts that MTAS provided me, the terms were not 1 year on the average. The terms range from 2 to 4 years. And so I felt it was the appropriate thing to do.
But there wasn't a question of you go back and research it. It was y'all were supposed, the city attorney was going to review it and bring us back the 1-year contract. I mean, we can look at minutes, but that's what I remember. And I was just curious where it came from here to there.
Well, as I said when I introduced it, Larry did see this. He was sent a copy, and I asked him to provide his input, and he made changes to it, which were incorporated. But I felt it was important that we get it back up because we're starting a new, the same board, but new terms, and that this has just been in limbo a long time, and that I just think it's something we have been remiss for not doing. We are out of the norm. This is the standard practice, according to MTAS, within the state.
City Manager, did you want to speak?
Yes, ma'am. I had there's one statement in here that gives me cause for concern. Section 9, termination of employment, number D. This contract termination shall occur when this contract reaches its date of expiration and no contract extension is executed and no agreement is reached to retain the employee as a holdover in this position. That gives me great cause for concern.
You know, I don't know. Yeah.
Which means you ultimately are putting me on a 1-year notice,
Right.
basically, or a 2-year notice, or a 3 or 4, whatever. So
Yeah.
right now I'm on a day-to-day notice.
Right. Right. Well, I understand there definitely would be security in a contract, and also realize that in this position, a lot of cities provide a contract. So that is noted, definitely. But one of the things that I go back to when we get into long-term contracts is, you know, Mr. Deck, and how, you know, that we had to spend money to get out of a contract. And so, you know, I'd just like to find that line of where do we protect the city and offer you some security. And I thought that we had already come to somewhat of a discussion, was the provisions were going to be made and then it would be brought back to us. And what happened in June and July was 1 year, so. And then I would like, I mean, I read this, and I trust your word that it is exactly the same for the year, but I still have a hard time voting on something that I didn't get to read this document. I would rather almost make an amendment to the existing. I don't know what my other commissioners think.
Anybody want to comment to Patty's question?
I don't have a comment for the question. I do have a comment for the comment from the city manager right here. And as I'm reading it, Steele's going to, at any point, and I understand the pressure under not knowing from day to day your employment's going to be, for any reason, to know that it's going to be 1 year from today, it's going to be terminated. I don't read it that way. if I could get some definition on it, because it still says to me that this contract reaches date of termination and no contract extension is executed. It doesn't say cannot be executed, and no agreement is reached to retain the employee. The only thing I'd look at it changing in there would be whether it be formal or informal. To me, it would have to be formal. But I don't read it as just a year from the day you're terminated.
Well, it would be real simple to change the contract to say if no agreement is reached and no notice is given to the employee, the employee will be retained in a holdover position. You make it automatic that if he's not told that the contract's not going to be signed and not told anything else, then he's automatically in a holdover position. That'd be simple. It's just a matter of word changing.
Until the contract is renewed with a date.
Excuse me?
Until the contract is renewed with a specific date.
Well, I don't think you'd want to have an automatic renewing contract, but you
I
could
said
say,
unless it's approved and extended, the board votes to approve an extension of that
right,
contract.
then he would be automatically a holdover, which would be until the board told him that he told the board he was leaving, or the board told him he was leaving. In essence, the other provisions of the contract would stay the same, except you wouldn't be on a definite term for the contract.
Well, and then there was another, I don't know if you had more questions, but there was also, reading this, and I don't recall right off, but, the evaluation process, I understand it would be basically done how the employees are done, but we did not do evaluations on the city manager, even though some of us filled them out, but we technically did not do that process, and I have a problem with us not doing an evaluation process and just saying the majority vote, when we're not actually giving him grounds to set goals and have improvements and, see what our wants and needs are. And so, I'm not sure I'm 100% on the wording of that. I almost would feel better going to I think most of, I can't speak for everybody, I don't know what y'all's wishes are, but I would think that, obviously if we had gotten to the point to send it to this attorney to review and make revisions, that at some point most of us were willing to discuss a contract, but I'm almost to the point where I think that if a contract is something that a majority is looking at, then, why not go to the drawing board and do a workshop or some kind of where it could be good for everybody if that's the way the board wants to go, or go back to what we had already agreed on and vote on it.
Other discussion? You did not state that in an amendment or a motion.
No, I didn't. I'm just making discussion for fellow commissioners.
If I can, just one more point, a point to make on the salary increases, percentage that we're talking about, depending on what kind of job he would do, that would still be under the control of the majority of the board. And that, to me, I agree with Commissioner Carroll that should be done on an evaluation process, so that we'd have as much evidentiary input as we can on it. But that still would go back to the majority of the board. If you're not happy, then we can state that and make that point at that time. There's nothing definite that says 2, 4, 5, 6%, whatever it is, nothing, without our approval.
I agree. But we would have some kind of basis, because if you're doing it in, say if we do go with the vice mayors, we're doing it at 2 years, or, say we take this one and we're doing it in 2 years, then we're giving a board that hasn't ever really worked with the city manager more than a few months, having to make decisions on a contract when they may or may not be, cannot determine determine what kind of job the city manager's doing from the outside.
Run me through that again, because I'm not following you there.
Well, if we did the every 2 years, and you said in January, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then we run with the, you would be having a new Board of Commissioners that just came in office the end of November, or beginning December, depending on when it falls. You are going to be having a new board negotiate a contract with no prior evaluations to determine it.
Well, I'm not sure how that equates to this contract.
Well, I'm just saying, if we did go back to the, because in here you were talking about percentages, you basically, the merit and percentages, talking at the end of page 1 and going over at the beginning of page 2. And so that's earlier I stated that I had some concerns about that because I wasn't sure, we had no evaluation. And so I know, and the way I read it is it was by the majority that would determine these factors, and it was a concern of mine.
Let me see if I can explain that.
Okay.
In a way that you understand it. The amount of his raise is always determined by majority vote of this board.
Right.
Okay? How we determine what level of performance he is not germane to his contract. We can establish whatever system we want to come to determine whether he met, exceeded, didn't exceed, didn't meet, whatever it is. But ultimately, his pay is by majority of this board.
Right.
So it's just a simple statement of the end game. It's not designed, and his contract doesn't need to have whatever valuation system we want to use internally to come to how we determine if he's met, exceeded, or failed. That's not, in his contract, that's not relevant. Now, that you make a good point. We need a system to do that, but it's not relevant to him.
Well,
All he needs to know is, how is my raise going to be determined, and it will be determined by majority vote of this board.
yeah, well, it would make sense, and of course, Commissioner Sutton just said that, and I understood it when he said it. But one of the things that my concern is putting it in the wording like this. I was worried about with no evaluation process in staff. I understand a majority, which I had said that earlier, could determine a raise. But the thing about it is, my concern is we haven't had any kind of evaluation process, and if we're going to do a contract, then I would like to see that included in it.
Just for further input, we could and put that in there because we did all agree that they would be evaluated in January each and every year. He does not have the authority to give himself a raise, and it has to come from us. And I agree with you that we should have something that's mandatory, that we have a full evaluation given to us before we make that decision.
Well, I just think it
That just makes
protects.
it makes good sense.
It protects the people that come after us. You know, it's one thing we can understand and determine if he's doing a good job, but if you're asking somebody to, you know, vote in a raise, then they have some kind of basis to go on.
But that would, if we did that, I think that would solve the problem that you're concerned with. If we had it mandatory, if we did it every January, because it's not going to make any difference if we do it 1 year or 2 years or 4 years. We're still going to be having some new people going to be involved in it in every stage, virtually. So as long as we have that evaluation process in there in January, then we can make a decision based on the information that we have.
I don't disagree with that. It just doesn't need to be part of the contract. It's superfluous
But
language. It's superfluous
and he's right,
language.
it doesn't have, we can say we're not going to do it until we get that.
Our own experience is that not all of us participate, not all of us participate timely, and like any employee, the man deserves a timely vote on his raise so that he can, the whole purpose of the document is to provide a a level of respect and security to the person we have running our city. Now, if we want to engage on another night about how we're going to come to that conclusion, I think it's an excellent suggestion. I thought it was an excellent suggestion the first time. But you and I both know that not everybody chooses to participate in that, and not everybody chose to participate in a timely manner. So to include it in the contract to where it causes a delay or difficulty, I don't think is fair to the city manager.
Well, I can see your concern, but one of the things that, if this is a binding contract between us and the city manager, then we would give him ground to stand on, and then also we could assure that it would be done if it was put in there, and it's not going to hurt anything. I think all of a sudden, if it's in contract, everybody might get it in on time. I might. And then maybe the other ones will fill it out. I don't know.
The first line of page 2 says it will happen, so we need to just make it happen, I guess. I don't...
What it says is the city manager will be evaluated annually.
Will be evaluated annually in
Performance salary
January.
adjustments.
So it's saying right there it has to happen or he can't get a raise or a salary adjustment, period.
So an
But it-
interjection there by 100% of Board of Commissioners would be able to line that out a little better? I mean, at this point, it's understood, it's the board.
But, and then it doesn't clarify though in the addition about the January, or if it does explain.
It does say annually in January.
It says evaluated annually in January for performance and salary adjustments. So that...
But in addition to the 2%?
No.
It's
No, it says in
included.
addition, it's in addition to the first page. Larry, the way you read that, would that not be that you could not have a salary adjustment period unless the evaluation took place in January? Is that not how the contract reads?
That's true, and he would have a right if the board didn't have that evaluation. If it came to that, I mean, you're probably not going to get a raise if you do it, but he could sue them a contract and force them to have an evaluation. Now, I'll quickly add that if I force you to evaluate me, I'm not going to be looking for much of a good evaluation, but technically you could do that. I mean, it's like the thing that I've often been asked, you know, how do you get a master to render a report? Well, you file a petition to ask the chancellor to make his master that works for him issue the report, but don't expect to get a good report.
Originally, this was kind of a encapsulated of all the things that we had agreed upon to be put in one writing and to give some type of security to the city manager, which seems to be a very big concern for some. Why then, if some items are all restated, why would the severance not be restated in this contract? Why would that be an item omitted?
The length of it, it certainly could be added word by word.
Severance package is stated, it's included on page 3. The minutes from the meeting are made a part of this agreement by reference as if fully copied herein verbatim. So that's the reason I said you've got to look up those minutes, put the date in there, and then they're in this contract.
Other discussion? My comments and input are the same. I'll stay consistent. When someone does a good job, they keep a good job. And to have a document that we need to complete and agree and vote on that says it will make possible full work productivity of the city manager, I would expect that, whether there was a contract or not. I would think and know that that's how he does his commitment to the city. Also, to promote and foster trust between the city commissioners and the city manager. At that point, that's including there is no trust, which there's another concern. And to provide just means for terminating a city manager, but I believe our policy and procedures gives us a layout of that as well. Again, my statement is, I don't think it's necessary. I believe he's doing a great job, and I believe our relationships as a commission and a board and a staff is in a great position. Other discussion?
Well, and I would have a hard time voting at what's in front of us, especially when the city manager had a concern that he had question about. So I would like to amend the motion to go to a workshop and discuss the contract in terms of it.
We have amended motion.
I'll second for discussion, and
Discussion?
Mr. Hyatt, would you, if this was voted on as it was presented tonight, would you be in favor or against as it is presented in its exact wordage?
In favor.
We have first and second for workshop on an amended. Other discussion?
Well, and here's the thing about it is, with everybody just getting a copy of it, besides what was the changes, you're still wanting to vote on something tonight instead of going back to the drawing board and discussing. There might be something better we would want to offer.
Other discussion?
Could we have that prior to the December 6th meeting?
That was my next question.
I can.
I'm looking for a calendar. Who has a calendar? Do we have something on the 6th already?
That's just one, that's before our next meeting. We could, well, that's true. You could have it the 29th, the town hall meeting night.
The question was, could the workshop be scheduled prior or on the December 6th? Comments? Other discussion?
How long do you think it'll take?
Well, I mean, we have a basis of a contract, and we had a basis from the year, the one that we did for a year. I mean, I would think that since the vice mayor has studied several other contracts, you know, we might be able to pull some other contracts, give everybody an opportunity to see some of them.
If we could get all of those to us before the workshop started, do you think an hour prior to the meeting would be okay?
If everybody else is fine with that.
I propose 6 o'clock on the 6th.
December 6th, 6 p.m. Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
We have the original motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
I want to say something at this time, but I want to make sure I've got the right point of order to it. I mean, we've...
We're in vote of the first motion.
Okay.
We'll ask for a roll call vote. Commissioner Sutton?
I have no vote at this time.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
My vote is nay. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Commissioner Carroll?
Nay.
All right, we're moving on. We finished up, right, Teresa? Making nothing else tailing. 9F, discuss and or take action on ad hoc committees, commissioner placement or abolishment. Vice Mayor, Commissioner Bissell.
Yes, ma'am. I asked Teresa to put this on the agenda because it had been a prior item that we deferred until after the election. I believe that you had been our leader in proposing things, and so I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have ad hoc committees that was presented to me by the city manager in 2008. My statement and my purpose of putting this on the agenda was to update. It had persons that are no longer on the Board of Commissioners, and it did not seem logical to refer to a subcommittee with people who were no longer active in the board. So my position there was inquiring to the other board members, my fellow commissioners, of a suggestion of subcommittees. I make a motion this evening that we accept the ad hoc committees that are public safety, finance, insurance, public works, streets, property, and legal. The purpose of the Parks and Recreation not being added to that is we do have a current park board, and that would be a referral of any subcommittee items that the Board of Commissioners deemed fit. At this point, I'd like to make suggestions. All the commissioners are able to discuss whether they have expertise or desire to be on others, but I'd like to make a suggestion of the Finance Committee be myself, Mayor, and Commissioner Johnson. The Insurance Committee be Commissioner Carroll. And I did have Vice Mayor there, but we'll put Vice Mayor. Public Works, Commissioner Carroll and Commissioner Sutton. Property, Commissioner Bissell. Commissioner Johnson. Legal Committee, the Mayor and the Vice Mayor.
And public safety remains the same.
Public Safety remains the same, yes, sir.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Mayor, if I may, do you have that in printed form so the city recorder can put it with the records?
In scribble form.
Scribble, okay. She scribbled too, so we'll just go with that.
I've already forgotten who I did property because I took me off.
Patty and I.
Johnson.
Oh, you and I?
Yeah, it's Stewart and I.
I'm going to add myself on that committee. Yes, sir. And that way we have a diverse committee on that as that discussion may come up. I'll share this with Teresa prior to
What's the other one I'm on?
finance.
You and I.
If I may ask a procedural question, every time we've ever called for these meetings to come up, it's just been like, okay, we need you to meet. We need it to meet. Can you designate one of you to be that person who runs that show, because staff can run it, and we haven't, and since I've been here, I've kind of been the person who runs it once it's called, but, you know, in order to get it called, you almost need to have a chairperson, or you need to have that, and the committee can select that person or not. That way it kind of, you know, gets a mind of its own instead of just kind of floating around like a jellyfish.
So you are the chairperson of the Public Safety Committee?
Apparently, I'm the chairperson of all of them, and I don't want that.
Okay, and I hear
Y'all
what
need
you're
to
saying.
designate who's going to be the chairperson, because it's up to me to call it, up to me to report. The first time I came in, I was here like the second week, we all looked at each other, and I had not been part of the meetings, and all of a sudden I've got to give a report, and I'm like, okay, it's the first time I've heard everything we've just talked about. So it's almost, now I'm better prepared, but I really think it's better if one of you be the lead of that committee, ad hoc committee. That's my opinion.
Duly said, and at that point, we will be able to finalize that as we finalize the persons and someone being the point man, point person. We voted.
Yes.
Any other comments? I'll share this with you before the end of the
Are we
meeting.
going to try to do that now?
Say you do that at the first meeting.
That's what I
of each-
say. Yes, as they move along. Thank you. 9G, discuss and or take action on consulting with an architect firm for insulation and wiring at Triangle School. Director Lavorne.
After the last meeting, we was instructed to get with the engineers to create a bid package for the wiring and insulation at Triangle School. When I contacted Will with Riggs and Maloney, which is our engineering firm, it occurred to us that we needed plans and specifications to be included in the bid package. And the engineer and the firm that we have hired does not have architects on staff to do, draw up the plans for the wiring and installation. So we need to hire an architect firm or an architect to do those plans for us, to get them back to Will to get in a bid package.
Okay, my question to hiring an architect firm, who requires you to do that? Because, of course, that's going to cost.
So
Who
the
requires you
plans-
to do that on a city project?
It's a commercial building. The plans have to be drawn by a licensed architect for us to put in a bid package. We can't just say, go put wire in the building. You got to have plans.
I understand.
John has to review those plans once they're submitted and approve them, because we are doing inspections on that building. When John goes to do inspections, if we don't have plans, then he cannot review them, and he cannot make the inspections properly because he don't know what the specs call for.
So why doesn't the HVAC fit in with this? Because it's all considered rough ends in your building that the architect's going to draw, which would be your res check, your J manual,
Well-
your electrical inspection.
I've asked for all of those plans, which I haven't got any plans yet. So if we want to do the wiring and insulation and include the HVAC, then we need to include that as well.
Well, I'm not looking to add anything, but when John goes to inspect a rough-end project, it's the rough end of the HVAC, the wiring. The insulation is one of the last things that's done.
Yes.
And of course, we've already discussed doing it after they start rutting around the attic, and it's the last thing that's done. I'm kind of concerned with needing an architect for an insulation, because an insulation is like 31W or whomever you has as a vendor, that the city would employ as a vendor to insulate this property. Do you need a plan for that also, where we have to pay an architect to do so?
Well, you're going to have to get the wiring plans anyway, and why not include the insulation in there as well?
But we're
Maybe-
talking about a schematic that an architect approves of the building, right? Okay, so an approved stamped architectural is what you're requiring.
Yes, ma'am, it's a commercial building, all commercial buildings that is either remodeled, built, we require that they submit stamped architectural plans to us.
And I understand,
for
I
review.
follow that guideline, so I thoroughly understand
So-
what the questions I'm asking you. I do not understand why the HVAC is not a part of this conversation or presentation, even though it's a free gift.
Well,
It's still under an inspection if you're going to hold building
I've asked-
inspections
I've asked
on
for-
this building.
I've asked for those plans. I haven't got them yet. So,
But I don't think the insulation is part of this. It's almost like not you, the motion or the position that we're in right now is we're putting the insulation where it don't belong, and we're not putting the HVAC where it does belong, and I can't just sit back going, this is not black and white, and we're going to come up with either a issue in the back end that we have problems with because you didn't approve the installation of the HVAC, thus you don't have that permit, you cannot give a certificate of occupancy.
that's correct.
Then we're on a
We-
wrong track here, getting, again, to a stop sign in this process, and I just don't want it to go where we go to a stop sign when I see it right now and asking, why are we doing it?
All rough ends need to be complete, the HVAC, the wiring, everything, before you complete the whole system. I mean, there's a schedule that you do inspections. You don't do a final inspection when you need to be doing a rough end inspection. So, but we need plans for John to review, so he knows when he does the inspection, he knows what he's going out there to inspect.
And that's regardless of square footage?
Yes, sir.
If I'm not mistaken, we also have to have drawings to get an electrical permit to be inspected.
I
And
understand
installation,
that.
I think you just say it's got to be R3 or whatever on the drawing. I don't know.
No, you have to do a res check and turn it into the city of Fairview to be approved by the building codes, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's not being discussed, and it's as important as the electrical. And when I sit back and watch the process, we're not driving correctly, and that's where we get in ditches. Dr. Rice, you're welcome to come
Yes.
speak.
Thank you very much. I think I can clarify a lot of stuff regarding what you're talking about. Don, you're correct. You asked for 3 specific things, and I have them. They haven't been presented to you because until the structural repairs were made, we were kind of in a stop doing a holding pattern. Yeah, that's a kind way of putting it.
Stop doing that thing, sound.
You have what you need. I've had it for weeks, literally for months. Number 2, there does not need to be a bid on the heating and air conditioning.
A drawing.
You folks seemingly still don't understand that a brand spanking new heating and air conditioning system, labor and material have been totally 100% donated by a person who he and his family have been doing commercial and residential real estate insulation since the 1950s. I see Robert Clark every Sunday, and he's becoming impatient. I have never in my life seen a situation made so difficult for a person who's trying to give $10,000 to $15,000 away.
And my understanding of the free service and the free system is 100% clear. But we have the installation and the permits and the approval of the permits that spin on your certificate of occupancy. So again, I'm trying to protect that you don't get to this end of the project and it's not a tight file to get your certificate of occupancy. That's all I've done for the last 2 years, is making sure that you don't go, or you're not put, and you being the historical, the people working on it, are not put in a position where all of the file is not complete. So I'm bringing out something that the HVAC has got to be included in this architectural piece of this puzzle. It's being left off, and I don't understand it. Thus is reason I
Whatever, a
asked.
J-page or whatever that is.
Right now, it's a res check. It used to be a J manual, which is the flow
Well,
of...
we have a J manual, whatever the Sand Hill that thing is.
Great.
We have an airflow thing, we have an
Great.
installation thing, we have drawings, folks. But if you want to turn this into an architectural situation,
Are your plans stamped by an architect?
they are not.
Okay, is that required by
But
the city?
they are prepared by a person who knows how to do air conditioning, for heaven's sakes.
No, we're
That's-
talking about the plan of the building,
Yes.
the architect of the building.
No architect did that. The room has this building has 3 rooms. It has so many square feet that have to be heated and cooled. Airflow has been, they have single pane glass windows. They will or they will not have insulation at a certain R factor. It will or it will not have insulation at a certain ceiling factor. All of that is taken into consideration and is in the report. I'm trying to be as kind and as patient as can be, but I have never seen things made so difficult.
Do you have any of those reports with you this
I
evening?
do not. They're at my house. You follow me home and I'll give them to you, because I'm getting sick and tired of trying to get this thing approved for air conditioning.
Thank you for your words. Unless you have any others, we'll go ahead and continue our discussion.
Well, surely you must have some questions, because I don't think you understand how the situation I am in.
If I can...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Totally understand your situation, but they're directing us to go in a way that is not productive to you. I'm trying to go that way where it be more productive.
I fully understand there's certain plan requirements and certifications that need to be done as far as it being a public building, and we've had that discussion before too. Now, can you make sure that Dr. Rice knows everything that you need to have in your hands in order to perform your job and do it like...
I have been, Mr. Sutton, I have been told this, 3 things, and I've got 3 things.
But Dr. Rice, he don't have them in his hands. He needs
Oh, no,
those.
sir. No, you don't have them.
He needs those to move forward with where we're at right now. Am I right, Don?
But if you look at those and you say this J page or whatever that thing wasn't done by an architect, that's going to be tremendous insult to Robert Clark as far as I'm concerned.
A J-manual is done
A
by the
J-manual.
HVAC professional,
Indeed it was.
so that's fine. We're
Yes.
talking about an architectural plan of the building and the schematics of the
The plan
building.
was drawn by Mr. Clark.
Okay?
He has the placement of the ductwork and the vents. And I assure you, there is no one who can do that better for 50 years.
Nor were we discussing the integrity of Mr. Clark.
Well, the
I
competence
believe
is what we're talking
that's
about.
fine. That is a piece of the puzzle that we're discussing. At this point, I'll ask you to take your seat so we can continue
do it.
discussion. Thank you. The architectural plan is a requirement of the City of Fairview's Codes Department. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
The architectural plan must put and have, just like any other architectural plan, the schematics of the building, the infrastructure, the interior as far as electrical wiring, heating and HVAC, and those items. That's what you're looking for, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it necessary that we get insulation in this architect drawing?
Probably not, but, I mean,
What's necessary to be in this drawing that you're requesting the architect? And I know I'm directing it to you, but you know the rules and regulations of what will be allowed and what will be permitted as permits, positive permits, approved permits, and certificate of occupancy. It's been my focus all along.
the HVAC
Yes, sir?
and the wiring, we need to have those plans stamped by an architect that's designed whatever goes into that space.
What about your ingress and egress? What about your risers or things of interest, entrance and exiting? What about your water and sewer and lighting? Any of that needs to be in your architectural drawing?
From my
Exterior, I mean.
understanding, there was not any water and sewer going into the building.
Okay, this is a city project, so at this point, is there going to be water and sewer on the city project at Historical School, yes or no?
I've never heard that there was.
Not in that building.
And in the building
Correct.
itself? Okay, just trying to get straight clarification. Do you have an architect that's been referred to you, or an architect firm that we've worked with in the past, or an architect that we might be able to inquire some pro bono work for something so simple?
I don't know of any. Our engineer firm says that they work with architects. Don't know who they work with. I know Ms. Anderson has been in that business. She may can refer us to somebody.
I'm going to defer this and allow you to bring back some architectural bids for what you're requesting, but I'm also going to ask that you have everything, because when it was presented by the commissioners last, it was stated insulation and wiring. That's not the whole picture, so we don't need to do half the picture and find out we get that information, we pay for that, and we still need the HVAC, which will be under the permit process to get forward for an approval, right?
Yes, ma'am. If I can get
That's
the
my
plans
motion.
that Dr. Rice has, and we can look at those with an architect, you know, they may be able to say that that's sufficient. I mean, I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer. I can't tell you what's sufficient for that building as far as HVAC goes. I'm sure Mr. Clark can do that, but As far as plans goes, everybody else we require to submit plans has to be submitted by a licensed architect and stamped. And I believe I did convey that to Dr. Rice when I told him that I needed plans, and they needed to be stamped.
My question is, you're requiring a public volunteer to get plans to a building that's owned by the city. I just have a very, very big concern with why.
Mainly because we require everyone else that builds a commercial building to do the same thing. If y'all want to forego that, that's fine with me, but I can't guarantee that John will sign a certificate of occupancy when the project is done.
I'm not looking for a forego of doing right, never. But I am looking at us asking a public volunteer to come up with an architectural drawing that the city approves, and it's a city property, a city building, and the city should be able to be getting together. I know that's what this request was, but the city should be getting that request. Am I wrong in what I'm commenting on? I don't think so. Just wanted to see.
Second the motion.
I have a motion on the floor, and there's a second discussion. We're in the middle of voting at this time. Discussion?
That you originally stated.
That I'm deferring this where the city of Fairview can work with an architectural firm for a quote on what they would require, that the city would be satisfied that the city gets to the city. Any other discussion?
And Dr. Rice can go to the meeting?
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Dr. Rice, for your commitment.
Please let me.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Please let me make this comment. And I think it will clarify my frustration. At the last meeting of the Board of Commissioners, I stood right here, and I explained to you something that you already knew, that the structural repairs were nearly completed and that we were ready to have the donated heating and air conditioning system installed, that it needed to be done before the insulation was blown all over this and also before the wiring was put in. And I did that on television. There's a record of my saying that, and I asked you at that time, please tell me if I should not and cannot tell Mr. Robert Clark to proceed with installation of the air conditioning system. I waited 2 weeks. I heard nothing. Last Sunday, I told Mr. Clark, proceed with installing the system. He said, thank goodness, I will do so. Now what the Sam Hill am I supposed to do?
We didn't have plans to review, so why would you give him the okay to go ahead?
Nobody told me this. That's what I said. I asked very, you were here, sir. I asked. Nobody said anything to me. I waited 2 weeks, but I asked. I was clear in asking.
When is he planning to go in there? Because the structural is not finished. That's supposed to be till the 30th of November, so he can't get in till then, till the structural's finished. If I'm in the 30th, Don, the day that they have to be finished.
They're gone.
We haven't been given any.
They're gone. They've even got the supporting, what do you call the things? Hold up the joists, the concrete piers cemented around.
We have a full agenda that we're going to move on. I will request that Don and City Manager Hyatt and Dr. Rice discuss this either after meeting or first thing in the morning.
My question is simply, what do I tell Mr. Clark, folks?
Discuss, please, with City Manager Hyatt and...
That he discuss with them?
Yes, sir.
That Mr. Clark meet with you too. He won't do it.
Item number 9H, discuss and or take action on employee deferred compensation program. Ms. Pewitt?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 meetings ago, I brought to you the 401K and the 457 plan that the state has to offer, And I was asked to go back and ask the 6 individuals that are part of the ING program. All 6 were okay with switching over. They do not have to move their money if we change plans, they just can't contribute anymore. And so I also have found that we have at least 13 other employees interested in starting the program once we get it up and running. And that's just a rough poll. I didn't speak to every employee myself. So I am here to ask for your permission to start the program. I would suggest January 1st.
Move for approval? Second.
First, second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Number 9I, second and final reading, ordinance number 793.
Bill number 2012-14, ordinance number 793, an ordinance to amend City of Fairview, Tennessee municipal zoning, sign ordinance section 11-109, permanent signs, subsection 11-109.2, computerized/digital signs.
For the wishes of the board?
Second.
First, second, any discussion?
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Just 2, I'll make them quickly. I did the revision in there that makes this ordinance effective June 1st, 2013. And I also want to point out to the board that you have every right to pass this tonight. It only has to be 7 days between the first reading and the second reading, but the ordinance would not become effective until 12:01 a.m. tomorrow. 1 minute after midnight. It has to have 15 days from the first reading before the ordinance would be final, although it would not be implemented until June 1st.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to new business, 10A, discuss and or take action on an infrastructure workshop. Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't take long unless y'all want to discuss more about it, but I just wanted this in the agenda. It's something that we've talked about over the last 2 years, and I just want to see us move forward with that. It's something that I know that with the growth of our city, and there was talk of waiting till we had our engineer and different things, so I wanted to go ahead and try to get on a calendar a workshop meeting where we could possibly go ahead, maybe not the first time have the engineer, because I know that costs money, but we could put together some thought processes, and then we can move forward and include the engineer. So that's kind of what I wanted to open up for discussion. So.
Okay, in discussing that, why could that not be tied in to our goals or vision in January that we discussed? I would refer to city manager, he slipped out, but we discussed in January that we would get together, discuss the 5-year strategic plan, kind of get a vision time that we was off and running. Why could we not incorporate that as well? I'm going to make a suggestion of January 17th or January 18th, and we'll look at schedules, because last year we took like a 3-hour retreat setting and discussed some things, and then we had another day that MTAS came in and kind of helped us with overview thoughts and putting them into directives. Does anyone have any positive or negatives on that particular date?
17th is meeting night.
Yes, sir.
So if we're wanting to have good long discussions, probably the 18th would be better, unless you want to start way early in the afternoon.
With work schedules, I believe 5:30 is the earliest some could be here, is that correct?
No, I really can't be here. I mean, if I...
Before 5:30?
Yeah, before 5:30.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, so we couldn't start early enough. What I was bringing up is
What about the Saturday?
Did the vision, the retreat setting that we talked about for the 17th, a meeting, so January 18th, Commissioner Carroll's brought up the infrastructure workshop, and that would tie perfectly into a discussion and at least letting everyone have a say, and then discuss where we have concerns. We talked about roadways, we talked about expansion of roads, several of those things would all tie in together with an open conversation. Let's focus now whether MTAS would want to be a part of it again, helping us with the strategic part. We can say January 18th.
Would you like to check the schedule as far as the city? That may be a 3-day weekend for city employees.
Oh, Monday's Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
We're closed 17.
So I would say, just out of respect to
Yes.
a 3-day holiday for them.
Let's go back to the 10th.
No, I'm sorry, not 17.
It's later in the month than that.
Closed the 21st.
Yeah.
Then the 18th
Fine,
is still
okay.
good.
I'll send those later.
Does anybody have any strong opposition? I realize your calendar's probably not full for January yet. Friday, the 18th, as a retreat setting. Would that still be your day schedule that we'd have to work?
I could be there by 6:15. But y'all can start.
PM.
Yeah, that, if we have a 4-hour meeting and MTAS is involved, that won't work.
But you know what? This far out, I can probably cover it. Don't worry about it. Don't do it around.
What is the wishes of the board if it be a Saturday?
Friday's probably better. Night.
Let's hover over the 18th. No, at the Nature Center. It's a more informal setting, and I think that allows us to communicate. Let's start with the 18th, see what that does, and if we have to address it, maybe you can bring it back in December to where we won't wait too long to get it scheduled. But I think the month of January is a great time to focus on vision, strategic planning, and things that we have to have discussion.
But I would like to make the comment, let's try to make it where, once everybody gets a chance to look at their schedules, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or whatever day that everybody attends, it's really important,
Yes.
you know,
I agree.
to work it out. We could do it earlier,
Even earlier than that?
yeah, if I know about it.
5 o'clock Friday? Set it from 5 to 8.
Yeah. Other discussion? Is there any action or other discussion on infrastructure workshop?
No, I just
Okay,
did it that way.
thank you. Moving on, new business, 10B, discuss and or take action on appointment of planning commission members.
Mayor, we have had some turn in their applications. I don't have them in front, all of them in front of me. We had one that expressed interest, had started the process, and I think it was handed out to you this evening. So I don't know if you want to defer this until after you swear in and decide who's going to serve on, that might be something we do to the first meeting in December, just because we didn't swear in tonight.
I make a motion for deferral.
Second.
Discussion?
I would like to, I feel horrible for those that are here and had to sit through this whole thing, but I would like to consider, and this might warn you to run, I don't know, but I would like to have maybe schedule some time prior to the meeting where they could come in and spend some time discussing. You know, I found that when I read the applications, that we had a lot of qualified people. And I would really like to take, since we're in an odd situation, normally there's not tons of people to apply, and we don't have the RAM of, the experience was high, I noticed, and I would really like for us to use that to our advantage and really take the time to, speak to the people and, with an addition to their applications. So if nobody would be opposed, I make a suggestion that we have them come back prior to the meeting, and then also that they're at the very front of the agenda. Yeah.
We just scheduled something
Yeah,
for
we'll
the
have to do
6th.
it at the second meeting in December.
Okay.
And by that time, we should have a planning commission meeting before that, we will have, and they could come to that meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Planning meeting is December 11th. Our next meeting would be 20th.
That would be my suggestion.
The
that they
20th
be
would be
invited to come on the
perfect.
11th.
have them come on the 11th to that meeting as well.
That would serve the purpose, I think.
So do it be prior to the planning commission or the regular, or our meeting? Okay. So we would have a workshop, or do we have to,
Yeah, workshop before the meeting on the 20th at 5:30 or 6? 6. 6 it is. 20th. But invite them to the planning commission meeting. You got it.
Workshop at 6.
and please don't run if you
Run your eye.
sat here the whole time.
Workshop for BC. Other discussion? I would like to thank everyone that did turn in applications and do have an interest of serving the community, and thank you for your patience, and I apologize for deferring, but at this point, we are not in a position where we can move forward because the swearing-in didn't take place, so timing is not in our favor to move forward.
Explain why the swearing-in didn't take place.
Because the official votes was not,
The election commission had not certified the vote.
They have to be certified prior to us taking office, oath of office. And it was normally, would have been done today. But because of extreme, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Because of extreme turnout during this election, they're going to have to bring the state in to do that. We don't think it's going to make any difference with our local election, but that's just part of the process for them to certify the election.
if you have any concerns or questions, please feel free to contact City Manager Hyatt for any direction. If you still have concerns or questions, you're welcome to contact and ask questions with any of us after the meeting. Any other comments? Item 10C, discuss and or take action of Bill 2012-15.
Ordinance number 794, an ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 2725 Fairview Boulevard, owned by Fast Pace Medical Clinic, LLC, and Richard Reams Powers, Jr., as shown on the City of Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll Map 69, Parcel 60, from RS-40 to CG Commercial General. Move to approve.
Second.
First, second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 10D, discuss and or take action on resolution number 16-12.
Resolution number 16-12, a resolution to set a public hearing for the purpose of obtaining public comment on changing the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 2725 Fairview Boulevard, owned by Fast Pace Medical Clinic, LLC, and Richard Reams Powers, Jr., as shown on the City of Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll Map 69, Parcel 60, from RS-40 to CG Commercial General. And that will be on December 6th at 7 o'clock here in City Hall.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 10E, discuss and or take action on financing for a new fire tanker.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in, I believe it was the end of August or 1st of September, you approved for Chief Cooper to order a new fire tanker it was $178,476. I checked with the TML pool, or the bond fund, and First Bank, the bank we do most of our business with, for financing options. Both were able to offer me a four-year option at 2.4% interest. The TML bond fund would be a $500 loan fee, and First Bank would be a $250 loan fee. They would both have interest twice a year. First Bank has it currently interest twice a year and an interest and principal payment a third time for the year. The bond fund has actual 2 interest payments, with the second one having principal. So they're roughly the same payment, however, just a few more, or one additional payment, if that makes any sense. It's spread out a little more for First Bank. The total yearly payment would be roughly $48,000. Currently, we had discussed previously the $40,000 that we were getting from our fire contract with the county, plus the rent that we get from the county, which is $16,800 for the year. We had discussed putting that aside to put towards the fire truck, which would obviously make the first year's payment and give us some for the next year if we so desire to still do that. Oh, I'm sorry, the first payment would be an interest payment of roughly $2,500 June 1st of this year. So that would be an item that would not be on the budget that we would probably need to, I'm sorry, June 1st of 2013. But the rest, the actual first principal payment would not hit until next budget year in December.
What's your recommendation?
I would recommend the bank because it's local, since we like to stay local. But they're kind of the, and it will save $250.
So moved.
First, second, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. City manager, items for discussion.
Mayor, the only thing, I just want to wish everyone a very happy and thankful Thanksgiving. I think we have a lot to be thankful for in this community. We really do, and I think the five of you, as well as my staff, realize that. And I can't say enough how thankful I am, to be here. My family loves it here. They've adjusted well here. Coming up, finishing our third year in January, and we feel like we've been doing a lot of positive things. And staff really, it's hard to do anything alone. And if I didn't have a staff, and I'm thankful for them, it's kind of corny, I guess, but we try to meet twice a month and meet as needed with each director as time allows, and they are all receptive, and they really work well with me, and they make me look better than I really am, so I really appreciate that.
Miscellaneous updates. Staff comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a PowerPoint. I have our financial
I did change the slides just a little bit this time, so feedback after the meeting would be appreciated.
Do we have copies of this?
I can get you a copy. I can email it to you as soon as I leave or make a copy for you.
I'd request in the future that we had copies for pre-review.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I can do that. For revenues for the month of October, our target number is 33.33%. And as you see, we're at overall 23%, which is below our target because of property taxes. We should see the biggest collections start in December, where everybody pays their property taxes by year end. But December, January, and February are the big property tax months. From 2011, our overall revenue is up 13.3%. Our expenses for October are up from 2011, 18.2%, with the actual budget from 2011 to 2012 up 18% also. So our expenses kind of go right along with the actual budget increase. The items that I currently have on my watch list are the telephone expense. They are running at 45% currently. The engineering expenses are running at 56%. The publications of notices of like the bid packages and stuff that we put in the Tennesseans, that's running at 83%. Janitorial supplies are running at 47%, and our office supplies are running at 79%. Part of that is the $2,500 we paid in the beginning to update the municipal code books.
Let me ask you a question. What did you say was at the 84%?
83 is the publication of notices in the paper, like the bid packages that we put in the paper, notifying them that we have those open. Advertisements,
Oh.
that's the word I couldn't come up with.
And
All
all
the
of
different
them.
yeah.
boards, everything.
Everything, not just,
And how is your consolidation that you said you were working on in the last budget time of consolidating all of the office supplies and the supplies of the city and all, how is that working in consolidation if you're, I won't say you're over budget, but you said
Yeah.
there was an upfront cost?
well, we updated all the municipal code books back in July, and that was roughly $2,500 for all of, between the notebooks and the papers that we got from, is it MTAP that sends us that? So that took a hunk out of our office supplies that we weren't necessarily expecting when we made the budget, if that makes sense. But I do have, Delana is the only office supply orderer. She orders, we've currently implemented ordering only once a week, and she runs it by me before we order it right now, since our numbers are so high.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And that is all I have for our budget.
Mayor, if I can add something, it's difficult sometimes to get this out in the packet because she doesn't get the bank statement in time to be able to make sure all the numbers are right, so she'll probably have to email that to you separately, if I'm stating correctly.
But I'll do my best to get it done before the packet goes out.
Good job.
Other staff comments? City attorney comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I will make mine short. I realize the hour is late. Just a couple of things I want to point out to the board. When you start reviewing contracts for the city manager, this is something that I thought about after we talked. When I reviewed this, I was reviewing it for legality. There's nothing in there that constitutes anything illegal. I was not putting the provisions in there. I think that's your call and the city manager's call, but it'd be an easy thing to revise. The only thing I want to throw out is when you're looking at these, the board, unless specifically authorized by statute for such things as franchise agreements, the statute authorizes you to go up to 20 years. But I don't think either one of you want to go up to 20 years, but the board needs to be aware that if you're doing this, the maximum that you can do is the time from the most junior member on the board, which at this time would be 4 years would be maximum that you can do. You can't make a contract without some special permission in a state statute or something to exceed the entire board. The other thing that I want to add, and this may not make me real popular, but we're backed away from it a little bit now, but in the contract on the Triangle School for the drawings, etc., be very careful. Be very careful about, and I know you want to save money, but be very careful about allowing something to be done that's outside what our codes normally requires. If it requires a stamp drawing, get the stamp drawing. I've done this for a lot of years, and I can tell you right now, and I hope it never happens, but you have a lot of public people who are going to be in and out of there. If anything ever happens, the first thing you go to is you look for the permits, you look for the drawings, and if you find one that was required, something was required to be stamped and it wasn't stamped, it's going to come down on you. It's going to come down on the city hard monetarily. And at the worst case, since we're the city and we know what it's required to be stamped, somebody could be looking at criminal charges. So just be very careful of that. The last thing's on a lighter note. I wanted to get that across to you. This is my either 8th or 9th Thanksgiving that I've been working for the city, and I always say that I'm thankful for having the opportunity to be here. May not be here tomorrow, but none of us have that guarantee, but I am thankful for the fact that I've been here, and this is, like I said, either the 8th or the 9th. I enjoy working with the city. I enjoy working with the staff. I want to, again, thank some of the people, man, I've been here, thank the members that was on the beer board tonight. We finished our hearings, and they did an excellent job for something that has not happened here in a long time. I want to wish all the citizens, the board members, the members of other boards that are not here tonight a very happy Thanksgiving, and be safe, and maybe we'll see you on a 9th or 10th next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Communication from the commissioners. Commissioner Carroll?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is, and I've mentioned it before, when we know that we have a bunch of people out in the audience and we go to do the agenda, Teresa, if you can make sure, let's move planning commission discussion up front. Right, but there was still one thing, you're right, that you couldn't do it, but there's still, mine could have gone to the bottom. I mean, it didn't take up much time, but it's something, as a pattern that, it tends to seem like the most, and it's the way the cookie crumbles, but when you can take consideration, please do. Okay, great. Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I want to thank the folks that returned me to this office. I'll try not to disappoint. And congratulations to Commissioner Sutton and Commissioner Johnson on their reelection, too. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and if you travel, be safe. We'd like for you to be back if ever you need you.
Commissioner Sutton?
Just a couple of brief things. I appreciate everybody that did all the hard work during the elections, for everybody involved, because that was, if I'm not mistaken, the largest turnout this city's ever had. And you're close to right on that. And that took a lot of effort on everybody's part from the county on down. And I surely appreciate being returned to this office. I have been blessed a great deal, as many of us have, and we need to definitely think of the misfortune of others and those who have not been blessed so much. I have in my hands here a request from Helping Hands. This was to me, not to the city, but it was given to me, and I just want to pass it on for Helping Hands. So far this month, they have, correct me if my numbers are wrong, they have already given out 85 baskets at roughly $50 a basket. $54, okay, I'm sorry. And for the years is over 500 or close to 500?
No, that was just the people that were alive.
Okay. So, the point is, if you can help them out, and we start a campaign for the business people in the community to try to join in for a small amount, and I think the request here is if it's $50 to Helping Hands annually, that would greatly help offset a budget of roughly $3,500 a month, and that's just operating expenses. So keep those people in mind. We tend to sit around with family and friends and enjoy the holidays, and take a minute to think about those and say a prayer for them, and try to help when you can. The last thing I've got is I'd like to ask the city manager that, if possible, unless there's an objection from someone else on the board, Dr. Rice has to be included in two things, that he be allowed to do so, unless there's an objection from another board member. I know he has devoted a great deal of his time and his life to this project, and I understand his compassion for it.
Right.
And if that's possible, I'd like for you to do this, and I want everybody to have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor, and those two things would be the adding the auction to the website, and for him to attend that meeting with whomever the architect is going to be. Like my other two colleagues that were just reelected, I want to thank the citizens for their vote of confidence in putting me in office for a fourth term. Just as Larry has spoken, I've had a lot of Thanksgivings here, sitting up here and at the old City Hall, so I'm getting ready to start my 13th year serving this city, and I'm very proud to do so. Speaking about what Commissioner Carroll said a moment ago, Teresa can line the agenda any way you want to line it. During the approval process, we can move any item anywhere we want it before we start our meeting. So when we see that something like that is going on, we can do that every single meeting. We can vote on that and move anything. So that's an easy fix for that. Happy Thanksgiving. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. I would be amiss if I wouldn't say we are blessed. We are very blessed. So take time to count your blessings and help someone else be blessed. Be a blessing to others. I'd like to also say Happy Thanksgiving, and I'd like to also make sure you have on your calendar our downtown Christmas parade. Fairview Christmas Parade will be December 1st, kickoff at 10 a.m., coming down Fairview Boulevard, and the theme this year is Miracle Down the Boulevard. And then on the eve, we will kick off our holiday season here at City Hall, 4:30. for our Christmas tree lighting, and we invite everyone to come out and be a part of that. Any other words from the board? Motion? We have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.